In a small town, the drugstore, the one in my neighborhood was called Tilly's, was like a bar. Gentlemen would go there in the evening and sit and smoke and talk to one another and spend part of their evening there. And I used to like to go to it because they had a magazine rack. And believe it or not, in that little town in Maine, in that magazine rack, were those little early gay magazines, which were called Physique Pictorial and Tomorrow's Man. Whoa. And, I would be careful that no one would see me looking at them, but I looked at them. But that really wasn't enough. I wanted them. And I couldn't go and buy one because I think they kept pretty well track of who bought these magazines. I don't know what they were doing in this town. So anyway, this lust for these magazines turned me into a petty thief. I used to be able to save a few pennies out of my allowance and stuff and buy a magazine every now and then. There were nice big ones like Vogue, and I always liked fashion magazines, of course, as opposed to Popular Mechanics or Skiing for Beginners or something. So I began counting my money out for the price of the big magazine, grasping it in the palm of my hand, tucking the little Physique Pictorial into the Vogue, double it up, walk over to the counter and throw my change and say, Tilly, there's my money for Vogue. And he'd say, yeah, Robert, fine. And I would go home and I had my magazine. And this was, Physique Pictorial was the first place that Tom of Finland was exposed in America. And I had always drawn. I hadn't been drawing naked men or anything, but I was drawing girls and, boys that looked like Ken. Is that Ken, Barbie's boyfriend, In other words, dickless boys, sexless boys. And here were these men. I also realized later in my life that these magazines were what influenced my entire generation of gay men on how they wanted to look. Because Tom and Finland were very masculine, very muscular, bulging crotches, bulging arms, tight T-shirts, jeans. And it was just a whole new world for me, and it was very, very inspirational. And now that I'm on the board of Leslie-Lohman, we have a huge collection of Tom of Finland originals, which I still enjoy poring over. So that's a very grateful moment of my life, those little magazines. And as I said before, how did these magazines wind up in this small town where everybody knew everybody, and they were so obviously gay? So who bought them? I think when you come from a not very privileged lifestyle, and you're in a very, very captured mode, everybody knows everything you're doing. I think anything that gives you freedom is just the most wonderful thing, and it starts you thinking for yourself, and it's very liberating.